Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30 p.m. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission work session of Monday, August 4th, 2025. Did anyone sign up to speak on any item listed on the work session agenda?
We do have 2025-137ZC for support fee abutin and 2025-205 DVP Camden Property Trust DBA Camden Cimarron. And these are both in support for those cases. And then we have 2025-210ZC. We have Glen Engineering Corp. in support, 2025-211ZC, JDJR Engineers and Consultants in support, and 2025-215CP, Winstead PC in support. 2025-214ZC has Winstead PC as well, and 2025-218 and 217 have Morgan Group as here in support.
And they signed up for the citizen comments as well as the planning or the public hearing?
They signed up for the work session.
For the work session. Okay, so anybody who signed up for the work session on any of the zoning cases, you certainly can speak now, but we'll really be having the public hearing portion later in the evening. And so you're also welcome to speak then. But if you're just wanting to speak once, then that's really the public hearing portion of it. This is intended for sort of before we get into hearing what the staff has to tell us about the items on the agenda for this evening. So if there's anybody whose name was called out who is wanting to speak now, you can go ahead and do so. Otherwise, if you want to wait until the evening session, then that works out well too. Oh, it's turned off.
Tommy, man, with Winstead. All I really tried to do was upload our presentations on 18, 19, 20, and 21, not sign up for this. So as long as you got that, I'll make them at the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have those? These presentations? Okay, they'll check on that
Okay.
for you.
I spoke with IT like 3 times this morning and uploaded them, so
Okay.
they should be there. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, was there anybody else who wanted to speak now? No, it looks like that's it. Great, thank you. We will move on to the next item. Report on the city council meeting decisions of July 10th, 2025 and July 31st, 2025. Is there anything to report other than what was in our, the memo we received?
No, just the decisions from council.
Okay, and then report on the Planning and Development Committee meeting of July 10th, 2025. Do we have a report on that? Do either of you get to go?
I'll be really brief. One of the topics was on TIF 2, which City Council is the board of directors for this TIF. So there was a lengthy presentation from Imelda Speck about a small developer workshop and how to take advantage of some funds that were left over from another study that was done. So that, if you're interested in small developer workshop, which really kind of affects more the Heritage Square area, you might want to go back and take a look at that. Our fire chief spoke about fire code and improving ordinances for day surgery recovery centers and electric vehicles. Those are really kind of, so if either of those topics are of interest, I would tell you to go look at that particular P&D video.
Great, thank you.
The EV stuff was fascinating in terms of how dangerous they are.
All right, well, then we'll go on to the review of the public hearing items.
We have, under the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the Monday, July 7th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We also have several plats for approval. If you have any questions about those.
And we also have the Monday, July 14th as well.
Oh, apologies, and Monday, July 4th minutes as well.
Okay.
So we do have several plats recommended for approval. We have 4 recommended for disapproval. However, we do have one of those. It's item number 6 that has received all sign-offs in the time between when we posted the agenda and tonight. So it is ready for approval and can be moved to the approval section of the consent agenda.
Okay. Any questions about the plats? No? Then let's go on to item number 9. And I gather this one's being postponed. I was just curious why.
Yeah, so the first time it was postponed, it was because the applicant wasn't present. This time it's being postponed is because we saw kind of late last week that the PONs that was sent out, the date for P and Z, we accidentally put August 8th instead of 4th, and so since it wasn't notified correctly, that's why we were gonna have to postpone.
Okay,
So-
okay, great. Then, item 10.
Perfect, all right. Alrighty, sorry again. Good afternoon, Commissioners, and Haley Rick with Planning. So this first case, or I guess second case, is this 2025-91ZC. It is located at 323 Collins Drive. It's currently R6, and they're wanting to go to SP2 for R6, so generalized site plan for single-family residential 6 with an accessory dwelling unit. After staff review, our recommendation is for denial. In terms of public comment, there was none in support or in opposition. So this is the area where it's located. Traditional neighborhood as the future land use. And then the surrounding zoning, so a lot of single family, so R6. These are the property owners that were notified. And then this is the site plan. So in March 2025, they did receive a code violation. It was due to illegal land use and construction without a permit. The structure has been there since around 2005, though it can't be determined if it was used for storage, an ADU, or if it's even the original unit. We can just see via aerials that it's been there since about 2005, or there's been a structure back there since 2005. They're proposing, or it's already existing. Like I said, it's around 485 square feet, and it's about 12 feet tall. I'll show photos in a minute from code enforcement, but it does have a kitchen. It has 2 rooms and a bathroom with a shower. So they are far enough from the side and rear setbacks to where even though the height is taller, it is far enough away that they're not needing variances for that. It's strictly just for the ADU component. So this is a subject property. And then this, you can kind of see through the fence, the structure in the back, that's the ADU. And then these are the neighbors. And then these are the photos that code enforcement was able to get about like a week ago, so end of July. So the outside of it. And this is the inside, so you can walk in and you go to the left, and this is where the bathroom is, and then these 2 rooms. So room 1, room 2, and then the bathroom with a shower. And I'm open to any comments or questions.
Do you know how it was that this came to code's attention?
Yes, for this one, it was a reactive. I believed it was a tenant who was living there. They said that the unit was filled with mold, and they contacted code enforcement. They went out, and then they since then have moved out. But that's how it came to be. Was the existing tenant was the one who complained.
Did they find any problems like that? I didn't see any.
Yeah,
The pictures.
Yeah, it was, he did those kind of like after the cleanup, but when I talked to Ricardo, he did say he did receive photos of the mold, but they were just very close up, so you couldn't really tell like where it was in relation to the room. But yeah, he confirmed that there was, so.
Whether they fixed that?
It seems like it looks like these photos were just taken July 29th is what they're timestamped as, so it looks like it has been done, but again, I'm not
And they're
sure.
using them as rentals?
It seems like that's what it was at that point.
Okay.
Since it's been 2000, when it was first erected, we don't know. But when it came to our attention, it was used as a rental. So,
Commissioner Merritt?
Yep, and how old is the house in the front? Because that looked like it was fairly new development.
well, they recently, that was another part of the case as well. They were actually cited for the main residence as substandard building inspection. Sorry, I'm getting jumbled up, but yeah, substandard building standards. Yeah, so I'll go back to so this was new. It was initially I think like a tan color, but they redid the roof, the siding, and the windows. So this is all very new from within the last few months. So.
Is it a new owner?
No, I believe it's been the same owner. I think since they got cited, and they just went ahead and made all the changes that they needed to comply with code enforcement.
Any other questions? Right.
Just to confirm, did they need a permit for the work they did to the main house?
Yes, they did pull permits for that,
Okay.
so.
And was the back used as a single unit to be leased out, or was it Airbnb, or was it just two different tenants?
It's, from what I understand that I got from Ricardo, and the applicant should be here, so they should be able to answer those questions more, but it seemed like at the time, it was a woman and then children who were living there. It seemed like it was actually like not an Airbnb situation, but like they lived there full-time. But in terms of what's happened before that, or what their plans are after, I'm not sure, so.
And like you mentioned, so this whole structure was built without permit, was just built and without the city awareness?
Yeah, so this, the accessory dwelling unit, the structure, was built without permit, and that's what one of the things they were cited for, so.
Thank you.
And it was built, you said, it may be that this structure has been there for 20 years.
Possibly. There's, through the aerials, it shows that there's sometimes been two buildings, and then one kind of goes, and the other one's there, and then it's, trying to, do our aerials from 20 years ago, it's not the clearest, so.
If they'd been using it this way consistently, that was in violation of the ordinance back 20 years ago as well?
Correct, yeah.
Real quick, so once we determine, then the code enforcement will go and make sure that is structurally sound, or has that already been determined? Because they did it without a permit, so we don't really know.
It kind of depends on, I think, how this goes, because if it's going to be considered an accessory dwelling unit, there's different standards, like building standards that need to be in play compared to if it's just an accessory structure. So if they're allowed to keep the plumbing and the shower, the heat, the cooking components, the AC, things like that, those are very different if it's residential versus this is accessory structure, because we don't allow cooktops and shower facilities and stuff like that in accessory structures, but we do in ADUs, or that's what's considered ADU, is those things, so.
So what would they need to remove if this isn't approved?
Since this is outside, so they don't need to move the building, and since it's, let me see how many square feet, 485. So yeah, as long as it's like not, as long as it's okay with the lot coverage, then yeah, they would just have to remove the plumbing and the cooktops. And then since it does have the AC that's wired, they can have window units, but they can't have like built-in like central AC. So that would have to be removed as well.
So that's the case with accessory, right? Or is that the ADU too?
So if they want to keep the structure, say they get denied by council and they want to keep the structure, then yeah, they would have to remove the things that make it habitable or livable, which is the plumbing and the central AC.
So if ADU gets denied, they can still use as an accessory unit?
Yeah, they'll just have to take out those components, and then code enforcement will go in and verify that it is, and
They could
and
still
that's
use it as a storage shed
Yes.
or
Yeah.
anything like that. Or even like, I guess you could use it as an office. You know.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is the main house a rental too?
Not that I'm aware of. That's something to ask the applicant.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right, on to number 11.
All right, and this is my case as well. So this is 2025-115ZC. This is at 908 Sunset Drive. Kind of same situation. They are currently R6, and they're wanting to go to a generalized site plan for single-family residential 6 to allow an accessory dwelling unit. This one's a little bit different because they are asking for variance to the minimum rear and side setbacks. After staff review, we recommend denial. And then for public comments, there was none in support, but there were 2 that in opposition. So the subject property, a little bit more close up. And then the future land use is compact neighborhood. The zoning, most of it is R6. The south is kind of like a public storage, kind of community commercial. These are the property owners that were notified. And then number 4 is where one opposition was, and the other letter of opposition was actually just outside the 200-foot boundary, so that's why it's not highlighted here. And let me refer to my notes real quick. Let's see. All right, and so, and I want to kind of bring up too, the 2 letters of opposition. There were more concerns about what it'd be used for, and if there's also kind of talk about if it's used for like a construction business or anything like that. So in their letter of intent, it was talked about how they initially used it for their construction business as an office, but at one point it was used as kind of an ADU for their son to live there, early 20s, kind of just for a period of time. But they are wanting to continue the use to be as an accessory dwelling unit and not like a construction office. This has been around, I believe, since 2020. Sorry. And then the setbacks is for the accessory dwelling unit and then as well to the side and rear. So for the side, it is the 4 feet, so a 2 feet variance. And then for the rear, it's that 4.5 feet, so 1 feet 6 inches. Again, this is already existing. Initially, it was smaller, but it looks like it was kind of built upon. But it does have just kind of one open room, a built-in closet, and a bathroom with a shower, and then a kitchen. So this is the subject property, and then this is that's the ADU. And then the neighbors. And you can see they kind of paved most of their backyard. And then this is inside, so going through the door to the left, that's where the main room is. If you go to the right, that's the kitchen. So it has a stovetop, no oven, and no dishwasher, but it does have those cooktop components, the sink, the microwave. And then this is the bathroom, and then that built-in. So this is the built-in closet, and then this is the bathroom right here. And I'm open to any comments or questions.
So, was this built with a permit?
No, this was also a code enforcement case. Same time that March this year, it was a proactive. The last case was reactive. This was proactive. So I believe it was Ricardo as well. He came across it, and that's when he realized it was here illegally. So they were cited.
And how long had this one been there? It wasn't as long.
It seemed via aerials about 2020 is when it was built. So it's been there for a few years now. So, but it looks like it was there and then it looked like it expanded. So as you can kind of tell, those two different colors, yeah.
And they said they haven't been using it as an ADU for that entire time. Some of the time it was used as an office.
Yes.
Now that still should have gotten variances.
Yes, yeah, it's one thing to be kind of a home occupation, but it seemed more, as aerials, you could see trucks that were parked back there. So it seems to be more of people would come and park and then they would go out for the day or something like that. So, yeah, which we did talk to them about, but they said they'd rather just continue as an accessory dwelling unit instead of like a commercial office. So.
Any other questions?
Remind me, what's the stand of the city with the ADUs?
Yeah, it's up to you, yeah.
We proposed some amendments last year about this time, and just different ways to look at amendments or ADUs if we're going to approve them, different considerations, and it was decided not to proceed at that time. So we do not have any regulations regarding regulating ADUs today.
So at this point, ADUs are just subject to this same process. They have to be by permission from the council.
Right. They're just considered on a one-by-one SP basis and just site by site, whether they're appropriate.
But was it approved or allowed at a time before?
No, they're called guest houses and servants' quarters have been what was approved. So those were by right for a little while. And then council decided, I think it was probably 2008-ish, where they were determined to need to be by SP. So, but they were never ADUs as a second dwelling unit. They were always an accessory building to the main structure.
Now, with this case, like I think they mentioned they've been cited, does that mean there is a fine associated even if they get approved? Is there a fine with this that it comes with it, or what's?
When they're cited, code's approach is to try to correct it. They're not trying to send them to court. They're not trying to do anything. They're just trying to correct the situation. So they work with them. They give them time, let them get their permits, get them go through zoning if that's what they need to do. If for some reason they either get denied or they don't complete the process, then they'll take it the next step. But compliance is always the goal.
Thank you.
So they may have just been notified that there's a code violation, not been cited for it.
It could have been either way.
Yeah.
And something I'd like to mention too with this one is due to the structure being farther enough from the street per fire, they requested them to put in a fire lane. So that'll be on the east side of the property. It has to be 16 feet wide, kind of as you see right here, and then support the 75,000 pounds, so for a fire truck. So this would basically mean it would bring the truck close enough within 150 feet that it could be serviced in event of a fire. So the applicant is aware, and they have agreed to, if they are approved, that they'll build this. So.
And Jocelyn, my last question is, was ADUs on the agenda in Austin this year?
Yes, they were. And they did not, I think they didn't get out of the committee, if I'm correct, but they were not passed.
That's not in the special session currently, right? No other questions? No? Let's go on to the next one.
Alrighty, and then this is my last one for a little bit. So this is 2025-137ZC. It's located at 1405 Lakeshore Drive. They're currently single-family residential 6, and they're wanting to go to an SP2. This is a variance to allow a second kitchen inside a primary residence. After staff review, we found no undue hardship. In terms of public comment, there has been one in support and then none in opposition. This case was postponed from June 2nd due to some notification issues, but then they're ready now to be seen. So this is where the property is located. Future land use is that traditional neighborhood. The zoning, R6. These are the property owners that were notified. And then this is their site plan. So it's a 504 addition to the house, and I'll probably skip to this one. So this is what they're proposing. So this is the blue is the main and existing kitchen and kind of eat-in area. The red is what they're adding. The applicant says it's for a kind of a mother-in-law suite or grandma suite. The difference is this is attached to a house, so they do have an entry here, and then they also have a door here. There's a kitchen, a full bathroom, and then a bedroom. This was provided by the applicant, so this conceptuals. So there's no oven, but there is a cooktop, a sink, and a hood and a fridge. And this is the front of the property, and then the neighbors. And then again, this is kind of their site plan. So really their variance is to allow a second kitchen within a single family residence. Is there any comments or questions?
I just want, this isn't being used as a Airbnb.
From what has been submitted by the applicant, it's for I can't remember who it is, but it's their family member. It's like one of their parents that they want to use this for. So it's kind of like a little apartment where there's some privacy, it seems like, but yeah, they still have the access to inside the house and outside. So
Okay.
yeah.
Where's the bedroom in the main part of the house?
It's a two-story. Oh, the bedroom. This is the proposed
that?
addition,
Okay.
but the rest are upstairs. I
They're
believe.
upstairs, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now. Any other questions?
If we remove the cooktop from the equation, do they still need to go through this process? Or does that change anything?
Yeah, what can they have without needing a change in the zoning?
The kitchen is kind of that trigger word, and the kitchen includes cooking facilities, and that, we look at that as the range with a 240 or gas connections. Also, a shower is considered part of a dwelling unit, and also air conditioning, if it's an air conditioning unit. So
But this one's all part of the same house,
It's already built.
so it's
right?
the second kitchen.
it's the second kitchen is the trigger on this one, the second full kitchen, and the cooking facilities is the main part of that. Usually we'll see, like they'll do what they call a kitchenette. Some kitchenettes are bigger than others, shall we say. But it's the cooking facilities, it's kind of that trigger that crosses the line
Right.
into a full kitchen.
So I guess my question is if they just put like air fryer in there and like
Microwave
a
and-
microwave and stuff, and they have everything just like this and just remove the cooktop, does that change
If
that
I'm
kitchen?
correct, we talked with them about it, and they wanted to have the full, correct me if I'm wrong, they wanted to have the full cooking ability in there.
I'm just trying to see where's the compromise if there were to be. Is that if they remove that cooktop, then it wouldn't
It'd be
trigger
a
it?
really big kitchenette.
Okay. Yeah, I see that in the comments.
We had a case last year, really nice young couple whose mother, they were helping with the mom. I think for those of us who were on the commission then, will remember, because they came back a couple of times. They were going to do an ADU, and then as they progressed through various P&Z meetings and city council, they ended up with an attached. Did that have an exterior entrance in that one? And if you didn't have an exterior entrance, that makes this a little more palatable in my mind.
So the one, without getting details, the one that you talked about, they couldn't make it work the way they needed to be a structural connection, so they ended up not doing that. But this one, it's not the exterior door as much, because you can add on a bedroom, you can add on a bathroom, because we had a lot of discussions with this internally among staff. It was that kitchen, so the addition wasn't the problem. It was the kitchen that kind of pushed it into being something a little bit different. So that's why the variance is for the kitchen, the second kitchen. So you can have exterior doors, but it was the ability for it to be a living unit, or, the second kitchen was what we were concerned about.
And essentially, they don't really have a garage for parking any cars in a garage, correct?
This one, they have
Yeah,
I thought this,
two.
okay, so I've confused.
The first ADUs did not, but this one, oh, sorry, let me get to the, so they have a 2-car garage, and then
Got it.
this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks.
What's the square footage of the house?
Of the addition, or of the whole house?
Both.
Woo. Let's see. The addition is, it's proposed to be about 504 square feet. In terms of the whole house, I am not sure, but it is 2 stories, so, but they weren't under, that's only the variance. They're not in any setbacks, and they're not doing any kind of lot coverage. They're not exceeding the maximum lot coverage, but that's something the applicant should be here, so I'm hoping he can give you a better idea on how much the total acreage, or total square footage is of the house.
I feel it's interesting in 3 cases, because let's say approving 2 cases, the first 2 cases, and denying this one, then, right, correct, yeah, it is not, but let's say in the case they decide to just go ahead and build an EDU and then just come here for forgiveness, seems like it might be easier, and for them at this pace. So, interesting 3 cases.
So real quick, just from a learning perspective, what's our concern with having that second kitchen? What should we be?
I'll let the director answer that one.
The main concern anytime we have a second kitchen is that it could become a full independent living unit. So
That's what I was
the
thinking.
difference between this one and ADU is this one was attached, so it was more like an extension of the house, whereas an ADU is typically detached. They don't have to be, but they're typically detached.
Yeah, and I think a follow-up question that I had in mind is there anything that gives us warm and fuzzy that this will not become a secondary unit with an exterior entrance or side entrance,
That's always hard to say.
like looking at current plan?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be harder, because if someone were to only use that exterior entrance, they'd have to go all the way, way around the side yard and get into it. But I'll never say never.
I got you. Thank you.
I just have a question about, so for this area, do we have any data? Are there any similar houses with these kinds of, like a second kitchen attached to the house in this area? Do we know anything like that?
Yeah, we don't see a lot of second kitchens, especially sometimes more in North Irving with the cultural, construction up there. People want more of a second kitchen, sometimes more of a clean kitchen or a dirty kitchen. But I don't even think there are any ADUs in this area from what we could tell in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I felt like you know a lot of construction that I don't knowledge on.
No, basically, the concern that I had on the last case was it's not necessarily, their intentions might be good, what they're wanting to do. It's what happens 10 years from now if the house sells. And I think that removing the cooktop, if they want to do that, that's fine. It's a room addition at that point with a fancy kitchenette. But I think that leaving the cooktop in and having it where the way it's set up, it could potentially become an apartment in the future.
Yeah, I think I share the same concern because they may not be able to have a second front entrance, but a side entrance is very common, and it's very easy to park that side of the house.
Any other comments, questions? All right, let's go on to the next one.
Good afternoon. Dylan Harvey, Planning. First case is Development Plan 205 DVP. They're going from their second revision of their development plan to the third revision to remove 3 parking spaces. Staff finding of no unnecessary hardship. And for public comments, there's none support and 1 in opposition. Here's the aerial view, future land use, surrounding zoning, notification map, protest analysis map, and their development plan. The area circled in red is the 3 parking spaces they plan to remove. I would have note that the spaces pretty much are already been removed. They built a golf cart storage shed or maintenance shed, I believe, and they've built a ramp into that shed, which removed the 3 parking spaces. Staff recommends updating their proposed parking plan. And then, yeah, any questions, comments?
Do you know how long ago it was that they built that shed?
They did go for a permit in 2024.
So they built it with a permit?
I believe so, yes. They built it, and then it was caught, it was realized that they had another building of such right next to it that was not built under permit, and I think this is how this came to our attention.
Okay. And they'll still be in compliance with the parking requirements, right?
Yes, our calculations, I believe there'll be well over 80 spots over parking.
Okay. Any questions? No? Thank you.
See no other questions? Subject east, southwest, development plan. This one's also mine. This is zoning case 2025-208 ZC. They're going from SP1 community commercial to just straight community commercial. Staff recommend denial, and for public comment, there's none in support and 1 in opposition. Aerial map, a closer view of the subject property, future land use, surrounding zoning, notification map, analysis map, what the subject property looks like, the residential house to the east of the property, the residential house to the west of the property, a commercial business just to the south of the property, yep, the property itself again.
Can you go back to the zoning? Okay, so all those properties around it
Are zoned R6.
are R6. And so when this was, so presumably when this was approved, it had started off as R6 and was changed to this CC, but no minor auto repair?
I believe so, and the current, it has been used as an auto, I believe, a collision repair center since sometime 2017, 2016. That CO appeared to be issued in error. They, I believe, have sold the property to the new owners, and they're looking to remove the site plan to allow auto repair officially.
But before the site plan, it was R6.
No. So originally, to give you a little bit of history on this, familiar with this property, it was a house. It was taken down, and that building was built. That building was built as an air conditioning office. Arnold's AC and Heat was there. Arnold sold it to Bill Watson, B&W Auto Repair, and B&W put in an estimating deal. So their portion of this is office. It's all heated and air conditioning, and it's got a little shop in it. And what they did was they would bring cars in for Geico and estimate them and send them out the way. My biggest concern is in the auto repair industry, you got to pretty much have lifts or something, and you got to have room. There's not really enough room in this building to do that, A. Yeah, B, the parking, there's no room for customer cars or anything else. And both businesses that have been in there underneath this current zoning have been non-invasive to the residents on each side. It's sort of a quiet operation.
So maybe there was a good reason why they excluded minor auto repair when they approved this. Any other questions? No. Thank you. Go on to the next one.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gina Costanza Grant with the Planning Department. The next case is 2025-209ZC, located at 2323 Cheyenne Street, also referred to as 2429 Esters Road. They are currently zoned SP2 for R6, generalized site plan for single-family residential 6. They are also within the State Highway 183 overlay, and their site plan has a current variance for height of the building. It is developed as a church, which is permitted in a residential zoning district. And with that site plan, they also established greater side and rear yard setbacks in portions of the site. They are looking to rezone to amend their site plan to establish a rear yard setback that is smaller for a building that they want to an accessory building they want to place in the southeast portion of the site. The staff finding is no unnecessary hardship. There were no letters in support or opposition.
Except the ones that we received this evening. I think we got 2 in support.
Oh, okay. Those came in after the fact then.
Yeah.
We didn't have time to update the PowerPoint. This is aerial view. As you can see, the subject site is developed as a church. This is the future land use, surrounding zoning, notification map, and this is their proposed site plan. The area in the bottom right corner is where they are proposing to put their accessory building. It's a 30 by 50 metal building in affiliation with their main sanctuary. The church also operates a food pantry. They are constructing this accessory building for additional storage, basically as a large pantry for some of the food that they provide for their food pantry outreach. And it is proposed to have not only storage for dry goods, but refrigeration. They did note that there will be no service where people come to the facility to obtain food. They have volunteers that distribute it from the accessory building and from the church. So there is not any activity where there would be traffic coming to get food at this location. They are proposing a 10-foot side yard and rear yard setback just in that area, only for that building. The remainder of the property would still observe the existing 25-foot setback. This is a drawing they gave us showing what the building will look like. And that is their floor plan showing shelving units, refrigeration. This is the location on the site in the yellow circle where they're looking to locate it. This is looking from the north end, and this is looking at the same area from the west end. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Which part, I mean, you said changing the side yard and rear yard setback because of the orientation of the property. I'm not clear which one's which.
They have an existing 25-foot setback on this portion and also on this portion. So it's basically treated the same
Okay,
on all those particular sides where they jog in and out.
okay. Did they have any reason why they couldn't just do the 25 feet? I mean, I gathered from the memo that they have plenty of parking.
Yes, they have plenty of parking. They are overparked. They will be present tonight, and I do believe they also have a presentation, so they may be able to answer that for you. They did not provide any reasoning to us.
Do you know if there is any particular reason why the setback is so high, the 25 foot?
I believe when the site plan was adopted initially, because they needed the variance for the height of the building, they, I believe, voluntarily agreed to do larger setbacks around the portion of the site because of the height of the building. But they're in that area where the shed is proposed to be located. There are non-residential uses on both boundaries of that property. So there are no residential structures to the south or to the east.
Okay. So the 25 foot was really with the anticipation of the size of the large buildings?
I believe so.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Great, thank you.
All righty, this next case is 2025-210 ZC. This is at 3131 North O'Connor Road. Currently, the zoning is SP2 for R75 with a variance for a daycare center and private school. They're wanting to change the zoning to SP2 R6, so that's single-family residential 6, with variances to minimum lot depth and lot area. After staff review, staff can recommend approval. In terms of public comment, there's been none in support and 2 opposed. This might seem familiar. This was a case probably 2 rounds ago. They initially proposed townhomes, but they withdrew and now are coming back for single family. So this is the property, that future land use is just traditional neighborhood. The zoning, it's mostly residential, has some commercial, and then the school, kind of where this PO right here is going to be the Farian Elementary School. These are the property owners that were notified, and then this is where the letters of opposition came in. The letters of opposition kind of were concerned about increased density, safety, and traffic. And then this is the site plan they've submitted. So they're going to do 14 single-family homes. A variance that it goes across all lots is the minimum area. The required for R6 is 6,000 square feet, but they're proposing 5,000 square feet, so 1,000 square feet difference. And then for minimum lot depth, the lots that are up here, 9 through 14, instead of the depth being 100 feet, they're requesting it to be 98, so a 2-foot variance. And kind of close up. And they're still keeping all the other setback requirements for R6. It's just those 2 that they're requesting. This is subject property, so it's a Sloan school. And then the kind of residential, and this is kind of where the commercial is right here on the right. And there's site plan again. Is there any comments or questions?
How many units did they originally propose?
So it was initially 23 townhomes, and now that's 14 single-family homes. So there's a little bit decrease in density.
Commissioner Merrick?
Well, I was just going to say, it still seems like it's very dense. But you've got the minimum standards up there.
So, but I mean, the big cause of that density still is the 1,000-foot square variance.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, it's just the area, and then for some of the lots, it's that just 2 feet.
yeah, the 2 feet's not a
Shorter.
big chunk of land.
Yeah,
but
it's just-
1,000
yeah.
square
Square
feet,
feet.
that's
Yeah.
a lot of land.
I always compare it to where I live in a 0 lot line house, and you guys have heard me say this before. This is even smaller than what I live in. and I live in a tiny house on a 0 lot line. It's like 10 feet less depth and 10 feet less width. Not a lot.
If they stayed with the 6,000 square feet, how many lots could they get in there? Or is the street what's affecting the 6,000 square feet?
It could be a street, I mean, because since it's a cul-de-sac, they're having to, for the fire truck, having to do a certain radius. But I'm not sure in terms of if they just went to R6, how many that would be. It would be obviously less than the 14, but yeah, it might be just because this is the existing turn in, so that's, if it's in the middle there and they have to like reconfigure the street. I'm not completely sure. The applicant, the engineer, I believe, is here tonight, so he might be able to kind of give you a better idea, but unfortunately, that's all I can kind of give you for that.
They would just be shorter and fatter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would just be a matter of each one would be a little bit wider, so like the 8 on the bottom maybe would become 6. Well, it might still be more than that. I think, yeah, I mean, I think it would still be more than that probably. But, I mean, they would have to do those measurements, but yeah.
I'll just make an observation. It's my concern is not only the density, but also just the character of the neighborhood around it. I mean, as we can see from this, the lots are not huge, but they are what more typical R6 lots, I would think. And that area, I mean, it's replacing what I think of as a neighborhood professional type of area there on North O'Connor. So it doesn't necessarily call for converting it to residential. But if it was converted, I would think it would need to conform closer to what's around it.
Question. Do I understand that are they gonna keep a school there, or are they tearing the school building down?
It seems like, again, I hope the applicant should be here in terms of why they're wanting to sell it, but it seems like the school is no longer an option for them. I don't know and the reason for that, but it seems like they're just trying to sell the property, develop it, do what they can to get
Well, I
money.
still have a
So
concern about the traffic and also the surrounding neighborhoods.
Yeah,
And,
it says that they want to demolish the structure and redevelop it.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what?
It says that they want to demolish the structure and redevelop the site.
I'm- Yeah, I was too. So I'm just, well, I don't remember them saying that was what they're gonna do. So anyway,
yeah, their initial proposal was for townhomes, and then due to kind of public feedback and feedback from P&Z, they decided to withdraw and kind of come back with a less dense solution that they thought would work. So that's why we're here today.
Question I have is for fire. Derek, is this okay for ingress and egress for fire trucks coming in and out and responding to emergencies?
So, but they're able to build it at 6,000 square feet lots.
Do you want to? Yeah.
It's currently zoned R75. So those are 7,500 square foot lots. So they don't need to rezone for 7,500 square foot lots. The lot depth would probably still be an issue. If they get approved to go to R6, then yes, it'd be 6,000 square foot lots.
So then they require, it's not 6,000.
Yeah, they could have a minimum of 6,000 by right, but they still have to have their lot dimensions. So he still has the issue of trying to fit the right-of-way in there and having the 100-foot depth. So you could approve it with the R6 with the lot depth, but not the lot size.
But that's even after approving R6 versus the R75 that they're currently at.
Right, it needs to be rezoned R6 if you're going to do 6,000 square foot lots.
And
at a
the
minimum.
properties to the north and south, what's their zoning?
Yeah, so the north is R6, south is R6. The only really, some office, this is, I believe, even R6. There's like this part right here that's commercial, and then over here is where that Farian Elementary new school site's going to be.
So the R6 would be consistent with the surrounding residential, but the reducing it from 6,000 to 5,000 does
For the-
not,
yeah,
does
for the
not
latter.
appear to be from looking at this map. Okay.
Yeah, I guess they will be losing, the 14,000 square feet if they go back to the 6,000. which will put them down about almost 3 houses. So they will be able to build, I don't know, maybe 12. I don't know, if they keep the 6,000, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe 10, I don't know, somewhere in that range. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.
Good evening again. Gina Costanza Grant with Planning Department. The next case is located at 1230 East Airport Freeway. They are currently zoned for CC, Community Commercial, and located within the State Highway 183 overlay. They are proposing to rezone to a detailed site plan for Community Commercial, also within the 183 overlay, but with variances to the minimum landscape and parking buffers required by the overlay district. The staff finding is no unnecessary hardship, and we did not receive any public comment forms in support or opposition. This is the aerial of the subject property. Just take note where those structures are. They are looking at scraping the entire site and starting over. The future land use map, surrounding zoning, property owner notification map, and the site plan. They, as I mentioned, are looking at just scraping the existing buildings. The convenience store's been there since the mid-'70s. They added a canopy in the late '80s. They are looking to build a new, larger convenience store, also with a quick stop restaurant affiliated with the convenience store, and they are looking to have 6 gas pumps under the canopy. Because of some construction that took place with the improvement of State Highway 183, they did lose a little bit of right-of-way some years ago, but the existing structures are grandfathered for any setbacks and requirements that were adopted with the 183 overlay. Because they are demolishing all of the structures and starting over, any grandfathering is eliminated, and they would be required to comply with the current standards. So normally they would be required to have a 30-foot landscape buffer along 183 and a 15-foot landscape buffer along Carl Road on the eastern side. They are proposing a variable landscape buffer between 10 to 30 feet along 183 and a variable 7.5 to 15-foot landscape buffer along Carl Road. They are compliant with their parking. They need 27 spaces and are providing those spaces. That's not counting the additional spaces underneath the canopy. We did get one Google Street View shot because it was kind of difficult to photograph at this intersection, so that's the entire site with the current structures. This is looking at the subject property to the west, to the south, again to the west along the access road, and looking to the north and the east. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Doesn't look like it.
Sorry, one question.
Go first. All right.
I apologize. So the public storage that's next door to it seems to have a shorter landscape from what I can see. Is that the case or no?
To the west.
Yeah, that would be to the west.
It's very possible that they too were constructed before the 183 overlay requirements went into place, and so they are probably legally non-conforming, most likely.
So they're also taking down the canopy as well? Like
Yes.
Everything's coming down?
Mm-hmm.
And this is 18 and 19, right?
Yeah, I was about to ask if you'd like me to go through both.
Please.
Okay. This is Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2025-215 CP. They're going from business office to manufacturing warehousing. Staff recommends denial. and there is no public comments in support or opposition. There's an aerial of the site, future land use, surrounding zoning, notification map, and this is the criteria that staff looks at when assessing comprehensive plans, from going from non-residential desire to non-residential or to a different non-residential. The City of Irving should require the following: the development conforms with new standards and concepts, meets all standards for adjacent uses, and does not cause any negative impacts on the adjacent uses. This map shows, Jocelyn, could you, thank you.
We tried to brief them on where we were with this. So as a reminder, we, in the past, I guess in 2023, we had the business district future land use. We divided that in between the business office and the manufacturing warehouse. And then we had a few cases, and so we looked at, okay, where should be the future land use line? This has not been approved, so we're still working through this. But we thought it was important to at least have y'all see or remind you of what the discussion has been and then where this case falls into that discussion. So the property on the outline on the left, the pink is the current business office, which used to be business district. And then on the right, the purple is the area where we're having the discussions again on whether this should go to the warehouse, the manufacturing warehouse, because of the zoning and the existing uses on the ground. This case, the property is up on the upper right in yellow. That either way would not be within a boundary of where the future land use might change over to office, or I'm sorry, over to manufacturing warehouse.
Future land use, and then go ahead and go through the zoning case. The request can go from commercial office to freeway, and staff recommends denial, and there are no public comments in support or opposition. Aerial view, future land use, surrounding, notification map. The subject property, northwest, or the office building right next to the lot to the west, south of the property, and the warehouse use to the east of the property. And yeah, any comments or questions?
Warehouse to the east, or was that warehouse to the west?
To the west, apologies.
That's the one over on the left-hand side there?
Yes.
So on the west side?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any questions?
I was just going to say, is that business or warehouse? It didn't look like it was a warehouse to me. That one right there.
Yes.
Okay.
It's offices, it's a small team of about 5 or 10 people, and they do merchandising types, specialty printing. So I'm sure there might be some, light printing in there, but
Wouldn't you consider that flex warehouse?
I wouldn't. It's not that big a building, but, I'm not a real estate person, so. And I can't imagine a warehouse distribution across from that on this subject property. Got a lot of trucks perhaps coming in and out of that potential new property. And then right to the north of that is office building. You see it in the white top left corner there. So you're talking about tractor trailers coming past office buildings that are occupied.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jocelyn. Didn't we hear a case on the property next door to this?
Yes.
The one to the east? Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. And if you can do this one.
Good evening again.
Together with its companion.
Yeah, we'll do these together. It's a
Great.
comprehensive plan and a zoning companion case. First, located at 1101 West Royal Lane, the comprehensive plan amendment is requesting to change the future land use from business office to community village. Staff recommendation is for denial. None in support and none in opposition. I'm sorry, approval. The aerial map, future land use map, surrounding zoning, notification map, and the criteria for future land use amendment when we change from a non-residential use to another non-residential use, or actually in this case, mixed use. The current category is business office. They are requesting to change to community village, which is a pedestrian-oriented mixed-use village with freestanding structures ranging from 2 to 4 stories. Should contain a mix of live and work opportunities with retail, entertainment, and housing, ideally located near transportation options. We have these criteria that we typically try to follow when we are looking at a non-residential change to a primarily residential change, that the area is physically appropriate, adjacent to a residential neighborhood, or residential use as part of a mixed-use development, that the zoning will not result in a shortage of land designated for non-residential development, doesn't leave a residual tract of non-residentially zoned property, and provides for an appropriate transition. And we will go ahead and go straight into the zoning case. If this does look familiar to you, you did see this same request several months ago. The zoning is requesting to change from freeway district and State Highway 183 overlay to a generalized site plan for mixed use, establishing standards for a mixed use development. The staff recommendation is for approval, and we did not receive any comments in support or opposition. Again, the aerial, future land use, zoning, property owner notification, and the site plan. The site plan is, since it is mixed use and we do not have any current standards in our code for mixed use outside of a transit-oriented development or the Heritage Crossing District, the site plan actually establishes the criteria for any mixed-use development. For this one, it's located also within the 161 overlay, which does permit mixed-use developments, and it does have some criteria for that use. 161 overlay allows mixed use as any combination of office, retail, and dining, entertainment, and residential uses in a unified development. It does require that at least 2 of those are included in the initial phase, and that minimum floor area of a use is not less than 10% of the unified development. This development, as proposed, does meet those requirements. If you're wondering, because we usually would have something with a multifamily concept plan that is proposing multifamily uses, which this is, we are not following the multifamily concept plan standards because they just cannot be applied in this particular mixed-use type of development. That being said, they do have a list of standards that they're informational that are included on the site plan for the mix of multifamily units that they're proposing, and as well as establishing setbacks for buildings, parking, landscaping, interior yards, minimum heights, maximum building lengths, landscaping and screening of parking, and also parking lot landscaping. So they're trying to mirror a lot of the multifamily development standards that we would normally require, but not exactly to those requirements as they're specified in the multifamily development standards. They are also proposing a walking trail along Hackberry Creek within the limits of the development. So again, a majority of the development will be for multifamily, but they will have live-work units on the bottom floor of the multifamily structures. And they are also planning a large entertainment restaurant facility on the premises. So they're hoping that with those mixed uses and the walking trail, also the office development to the south, that it will provide somewhat of a mixed-use feel for that area, and also possibly provide housing and entertainment and some shopping needs for both the people who will live there and also for the existing office uses. Since the since the mixed-use development is permitted in the 161 overlay and does exceed all requirements, it complements the surrounding uses and has no requested variances. The staff is in support of this and is recommending approval. And I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Is this proposal different than the one that we received last year?
It is not.
Okay. We recommended approval on that one, if I remember correctly, but then council denied it.
That's correct.
Do we have any sense of what the concerns that were involved there? Okay.
I think it was mainly just the basic loss of office property. That's what we understand.
Okay. All right. But they think it's worth going ahead and trying again, obviously.
Things are a little different this year, or this time of year, yes.
I just had a question about the change in the comprehensive plan, community village pedestrian-oriented mixed use. When I think of that kind of use, I think of a broader area that might be more conducive to pedestrian traffic. Is the vision that this area would become more conducive to pedestrian traffic, or is it really just intended to be self-contained within this development?
So the 181 overlay, and in this segment specifically, allows mixed use as a use by right. So essentially, this process is just setting those standards. There's not an overall change of future land use in the area to community village per se, but there's hotels around there, there's a lot of office around it, and this complements some of the existing uses that may not be the same land use, but we see it as a larger, call it horizontal mixed use, for lack of a better word, more complementary to what's already out there. So there's not a change of land use proposed for the larger area as much.
Got it. And the trail that was mentioned, which sounded interesting, but that's just within this development. There's not a broader trail along this creek?
To date. I mean, there could be a larger one.
Thanks.
Now, if I remember correctly, the way that this property was going to be designed, it was sort of that southeastern corner was going to be a restaurant, and then the rest of it was going to be mostly residential plus some of the office, a little bit of office space, but it was mostly residential. So, I mean, while it's all one property and considered mixed use, they're really, except for that little bit of office space, it's kind of like a restaurant area next to multifamily.
The term has become horizontal mixed use, as when you have mixed uses in an area that don't necessarily mirror the kind of mixed use that you see in Heritage, where you could possibly have retail on the bottom and residential on the top floors and things like that. So,
I got a question. So how much is this coming back more from the decisions that were made in Austin, taking business property and changing it for residential?
So we will talk about that. We have one more item, and then we will be getting into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll hold.
The question I got is how much commercial did they increase, if that was council's issue, not enough commercial? So how many more offices or office space, percentage-wise or square footage-wise, did they add to this development?
So they're meeting the required 10% that the 161 overlay. So it wasn't the amount of commercial within this development. It was just the larger concept of losing potential office development.
Along 161.
Yeah. And this one, to answer, I think it was Mr. Denny's question, was there is a restaurant, but the building, kind of the west side of the multifamily building, does have commercial on the bottom. So that's where the commercial and some of the live work, so it is a true vertical mixed use on the eastern part of the multifamily building.
Wasn't there some concern about entrance and exit from this property? Because there really isn't anything there along 161 access.
There's concern about traffic, and the applicant will address all this because they've obviously paid attention to the comments from last time. Royal is a 3-lane with turn lanes. It's a very large street, so the traffic quantity isn't the issue, and just the intersection with 161 is what it is. So they'll work with traffic to make sure that they're, if they have deceleration lanes that they need, I don't know, I doubt any lights would be available here. It just depends on the spacing. But they'll work closely with traffic to make sure their ingress and egress is safe. But the capacity of the road, it's a very large street.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I was just going to say.
Oh, your microphone's off.
But right down from that on Royal is the development of that new Fox studio. So, I mean, I know traffic will be looking at that, but.
Right. No other questions? Then on to 22.
Alrighty, this is the last zoning item for tonight. This is zoning case 2025-219ZC. This is located at 4441 and 4435 West John Carpenter Freeway. The current zoning is for SP1RAB, so that detailed site plan for restaurant with attendance extra use for sale of alcohol beverages for on-premises consumption and hotel uses. And they're wanting to keep the SP1RAB plus hotel uses, but they're asking for a variance to the required setback on their southern portion of the property. So after staff review, staff recommendation is for approval. In terms of public comments, there were none received in support nor in opposition. So this is the site. And then the future land use. The zoning, it's surrounded by a lot of either commercial or other hotels. And this is the property owners that were notified. And then this is their site plan. So currently existing is this hotel. They got a SP1REB in 1996. They're wanting to keep it. It's technically two separately platted lots, but at this moment it's still the same ownership. But the proposal is to build a church on the southern portion of the site. The variance they're requesting is not because of the use. Technically, churches are allowed in any zoning district. So even though it is that SP1RAB, a church is allowed. The variance that they're requesting is for the setback along 114. There is a 30-foot setback. They're requesting a variance of 13.5 feet or 54 feet to allow some parking spaces. Usually in setbacks, we allow parking, but per Chapter 33A, parking isn't allowed in this setback. So that's why they're requesting a variance. It seems to not be whole parking spots, but it seems to affect partial parts of 5. But that's kind of the only variance. They are meeting the required parking, regardless if they do fixed seating or non-fixed seating. So this is the subject property, so that's where that double tree is. And then this is the southern lot, so this is where the church is proposed to go. And this is what's north, gas station, across the street, so that west, south, and then this kind of southwest frontage, again, that showing that lot a little bit more. And this is the access that church would currently have. And the only other thing I'd like to mention is from there's 2 departments. So CIP mentioned that detention will be required to develop. And then for water, they said development will have to resolve issues regarding encroachment of the existing DCDA and fire lane for the hotel. But again, that's kind of stuff at permitting. But so besides that, they did send the approval. They just want to let the applicant know, which they are aware of. So
Do they need these parking spots that are creating the need for the variance? Do they need those in order to comply with the parking requirements?
I don't believe so. We did talk about it. I think it has to do with more since it is a church, they're wanting to provide more just in case of hopefully, they're hoping to expand. But the required parking, I can't see it on here, but they wanted to add 89 spaces. And I believe they're required, depending on, per our code, it's different if they want to do fixed seating, like pews or like stadium seats versus if they were just doing, loose seating, so just chairs or things like that. It's around, I believe it's 56 if it's without fixed seating, and then it's 89, or it's 86 if it's fixed seating. Again, I have to it's on here, I just can't see it, so, but they are a few spaces over what's required,
Okay.
so.
And you said that normally these parking spots in the setback wouldn't be a problem. Why in this context? I mean, I understand that that's what the code says, but is there any particular reason why there's a change in this context?
Joss, I don't know if you can speak on to why 33A talks more about not allowing parking along that, or.
At 33A, it's not in the zoning ordinance per se, it's in the land development code. It just adds some additional protections for some of the larger highways or thoroughfares. So if this was on a smaller street, it wouldn't matter as much, but the 30-foot is more of a protection to pull some of the uses off of the highway frontage. So that's why typically on an average street, it wouldn't be an issue, but there's a list of streets in 33A where it is.
Now, they're not adding a new access to the entryway to the access road, right?
No, they'll have to share the driveway with the hotel. It's already on an access road, so
Yeah.
it's going to be careful.
So has traffic looked at that? Because that's right on that service road, which is, when people come off that service road, it's like get to the stop sign as quickly as possible. And I don't even think the hotel uses that exit at all. Most of the people go around the other way, so.
Yeah, everything that's out there is already existing. They're not proposing to add anything new. And if they did want to make any changes, they would have to talk to TxDOT since it's their right of way. The city doesn't really have too much say when it comes to what goes on the frontage roads.
Yeah, I don't know how a church is going to be able to get people out. I mean, that's always, let's see what they.
Any other questions?
One question. They could build this without the variance, correct?
Yes, technically if they weren't encroaching to the setback, I believe so.
And they could reduce the number of parking spots.
A few, depending, like I said, depends on their seating and square foot. Again, the options. It's either one's based on square footage, the other one's
I
based on
think
how
she
many
was
seats you
saying
have.
that there was like 5 affected.
Yeah.
But there are only 3 from being in compliance if you got pew seats, because they got 89 parking spaces, correct?
That's what they're proposing to add.
And
Yeah.
they're required to have 86, so.
Yeah. So they could easily lose these parking spots and still be in compliance.
They could lose 3 of them.
3 of them, okay.
Yeah.
But they could also do something different.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right.
Now we get to do the UDC amendments.
All right. So I, last week, sent out a link to the city council's discussion, so I hope y'all were able to take the time and listen to that and read through it, because I knew we'd be short on time tonight, so we'll probably run over, but I will do my best here. So I will go through the proposals, and then if y'all have any comments or recommendations for the city council, we will take note of those and make sure the city council knows what your opinions are. So as a recap, Senate Bill 840 requires that, it was an amendment creating Chapter 218, so you're going to see that as well. Chapter 218 will be the permanent location of these regulations in the legislative or the local government code, which requires that cities must accept multifamily and mixed-use residential development in mixed-use districts in most non-residential zoning districts. So the city can't require any discretionary approval if people want to build multifamily or mixed-use residential in a commercial or most residential, most industrial areas. Heavy industrial is protected, so if someone wants to be within 1,000 feet of a heavy industrial, then we would not approve that per the bill. 840 also preempts a lot of the typical zoning regulations, things like heights and setbacks, density, floor to area ratio. We cannot regulate any of those kind of basic things that we would look at in a typical multifamily use. There are also preemptions for residential building conversions. So if they're converting an office to a multifamily or to a mixed use, we cannot regulate things like unit size, parking. So if an office was parked a certain count and they convert it to multifamily, we cannot require additional parking. There's also prohibitions of any type of traffic adjustments for the additional traffic demand. And this bill is effective on September 1st. So that's why we're asking for your recommendation tonight for the City Council, and it will come to the City Council on August 28th. So this is part of a set of recommendations and regulatory actions. Tonight we're going to be going over number 1, which is essentially the zoning changes. The building codes were approved last week on July 31st. They are within a 30-day window right now that they have to be approved before they can become effective. So those will be effective August 30th, I believe. We're also looking at amending the Land Development Code. We're creating an adequate public facilities ordinance to identify the process about studying for the minimum capacity needed for these developments. And then the other departments, the water and traffic, CIP for stormwater, everybody's looking at their codes to see if there's any scrubbing that needs to happen on their codes to set us up for September 1st. So we're looking at adding some definitions. Heavy industrial use, this definition is directly out of Chapter 218. That refers to any storage, processing, manufacturing use that has flammable or explosive materials, hazardous conditions, or noxious or offensive from odors, smoke, etc. So we figured it was important if we are able to regulate things that have hazardous conditions, that we are very clear and objective as to what those are. So we spent some time on what hazardous conditions could be so we can measure those if they come up. There's also, people are required to register with it's our fire department, the EOC, and essentially it's ultimately the state that the TCEQ, this is called a Tier 2 Chemical Inventory Report, so that when the police department gets there, they know exactly what's going to be on site and what they'll be working with. And then also we tried to define what noxious or offensive is as to whether there's a use that might cross that line into being something that is reasonably interferes with the use and enjoyment of properties. So Chapter 218 also defines mixed-use residential and multifamily residential, so we're carrying those over into our ordinance. So Chapter 313, y'all have seen a lot of multifamily concept plans. Those are all in Chapter 313. So when you see all those charts and everything that typically Ken does, Gina's done several as well, those are all the details of 313. So we took a heavy scrub on 313, and these are some of the things that we're working through. We're adding for applicability, so they apply. Currently, it's only to the multifamily. We're making it apply to all multifamily and mixed-use residential development. The Heritage Crossing District is accepted from this because the Heritage Crossing District, which of course is our downtown mixed-use area, has its own set of standards. So there's no reason to confuse them, but also the Heritage Crossing District was thought through and is very intentional with what they have. And then, of course, we have those conversions that have certain exceptions as well. We're reorganizing it. There's a section in there that's actually pretty good. It's called review criteria. Since we don't have the criteria anymore, we're moving that over into the more of the beginning of the section and renaming it to recommendations and guidelines. Just a lot of good things to think through when they're designing these. A lot of good urban form thoughts in there. Currently, there is a discretionary review process, which y'all are a part of, where they have to do a community framework plan and a concept plan that goes through P&Z and council. And then through the same thing in the existing 3.13, then after it's approved at P&Z and council, then it goes through the building permit process for the administrative review. The discretionary review part we cannot do anymore, but we are keeping in the ordinance just in case we possibly are able to bring that back. We don't want to lose it completely. So if we, either in the short term or the long term, can't use the discretionary process, we just will not use it. We'll ignore it. But what we have done is some of the items that were in the concept plan process that were not in the detailed plan review. So again, the concept plan is more of the P&Z council. The detailed plan is the building permit administrative process. So we brought a few things that were in the concept plan, brought them into the detailed plan, and made sure that was had everything in there that we were looking for. And then in the administrative review, if the building permits meet all the standards, and they have to be approved. There's no discretion to it. We'll go through all the standards right now, but if a building permit comes in and meets the standards, there is no ability to deny those. So a few of the concepts we were looking at, height is probably one of the ones that we've spent most of the time on. Currently, the minimum height, TOD has a minimum of 45 feet or 5 stories, 65 feet. We've proposed a few different options to the city council, and again, if y'all watched the video last Thursday, you kind of saw the discussion, what we worked through. Ultimately, council chose to have a minimum of 6 occupied stories, and the term occupied is to make sure that if they put any levels of podium, which is the concrete, basically a parking structure, then the 6 stories begins to count once you are past that podium structure. So that's why we use the term occupied. So it's 6 stories minimum, and if you're in a multifamily district, it's also 6 stories a maximum. And then in the urban business overlay and the high-intensity mixed-use districts, we have a 120-foot minimum to have at least 6 occupied stories. That is the what's preferred in the urban overlay, and so we thought that would be a good standard to hold. Maximum height in the RMF districts were 24 to 36 feet. Urban business overlay, again, 120 feet. The proposed would just be whatever the base district is for overall heights higher than the minimum. So that would be, say we're in the freeway district, it'd be a minimum of 6 stories. And then if the freeway district, a lot of the districts have a half the distance to residential. So, maybe they can be a 200 foot or 300 feet. And so it'd be a minimum of 6 stories up to whatever that district allows, which is typically a ratio of the distance to an R residential district. You look confused, Terry. Yes, that's the way it works. It is confusing. For the unit size, we have currently square footages based on unit, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. We're proposing to keep those in the unit mix in order to provide more of a variety for different types of households, that if a development has more than 25 units, that half of those can have the same number of bedrooms, so have a mix of 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. Larger complexes, more than 50 units, that we want 10% of those to be 3 bedroom. Again, to give some more options to different types of households. So landscaping, what we're looking at, so we have to allow no greater than a 25-foot buffer, a setback. So if we require a 50 feet, we in our zoning district, we can't require any more than 25. So we're saying that 25-foot buffer, when it's adjacent to an R single-family district, a 0 lot line, or duplex or townhouse district, is just a landscape buffer area. So we want 1 a 3-inch caliber tree every 25 feet. And then in that area, no parking driveways or basically any paved surfaces within that 25-foot. For street trees, we would want a large street tree every 40 feet on center, ideally within 10 feet of the public sidewalk, again, to help create shade for people who are walking along the sidewalk. Fencing, we would want an 8-foot masonry wall, again, between the single-family, zero-lot line duplex or townhouse zoning districts. For open space, we are looking at proposing 20% of the gross area of the site, which is less than what we have today, but we have to be careful because the bill does not let us regulate floor area ratio, which is essentially the size of the building. So we want to be very delicate about that, but what we want to do is lean into the amenities. So we've got some amenities that are required today, but we want to require that there's at least one pool and deck area, a dog park, a trail, and a playground with 3 pieces of equipment, and then optional, they could pick another pool or a ball court or something, but just to add a little bit more of the amenities to the site. Again, we're looking at the quality of the site, and so the size of the amenities or the size of the open space isn't as important as the quality of the amenities and what is provided. For those amenities, we want to make sure they're shaded through trees or shade structures, and those are especially important along the trails or the dog parks, or whenever the open space is supposed to be usable for the residents to be outside and recreate, instead of having to go to a city park per se, and we want those to be comfortable and safe. And the site furnishings, seating, waste receptacles, and lighting in order, again, also to make those comfortable and safe. This is just a more recent apartment complex that we thought was kind of typical of what we see today. This is at near the Blue Star area at 114 and 161 is Ave Las Colinas. So you can see a pool here. They've got some various trails that go through, some open space. This over here in the far west side is a dog park. This one happens to be on Hackberry Creek. They don't own it, obviously, but it has some open space. And again, they've, well, it doesn't look like a trail, but they've got kind of various amenities for this property. And this one is all surface parked. There's no structured parking here. For private outdoor space, we would like to have balconies, 60 square feet, 6 feet in depth, 120 square foot fenced patio area for the ground level units. Parking, we do not want parking between a residential building and a street. That's just good form. Half the parking space would need to be covered. No compact spaces, so typically within the UDC, you can have 10% of compact spaces. SB 840 does not allow us to require any more than 1 parking space per unit, so we want to make sure that all those parking spaces are functional. So a compact space, even though they'll try, you can't fit a big truck in there, so we don't want to have any spaces that are too small. And then no shared parking. Again, the UDC allows if there is a use within 300 feet that has excess parking, that you can share that. Again, if we're going to have a minimum parking, we want to make sure that all that parking is on site. We think a quality development needs to have bicycle storage and also to encourage bicycle use if we're going to have reduced parking. So have some enclosed secure rooms within every 4 buildings. And then also there's some building code and fire code process that are going through for EV charging. So we would like the EV charging to be provided, or at least available. Amenities, so inside the unit or inside the structure, laundry connections in each unit, gym fitness center, clubhouse, and a remote work center, and then have a list of 2 additional amenity options they can choose from, such as storage room, yoga room. Architecture, the ground floor units, we would like to have exterior features, stoops, covered porches, patios, and roof articulation. Just keep the change of plane because that does make for a more impressive visual effect. And then for density, the TOD and the urban business overlay districts are the only 2 places that have a minimum density. So we're proposing to remove those so that we have some flexibility and default to the requirements of Senate Bill 840, which is the highest density in the municipality in the city, or 36 units an acre. And then we thought it was important to understand that if we are requiring a 6-story minimum building, that the density could be increased. So that's why we removed some of the density expectations so that we have that flexibility. So for residential mixed use, for if a multifamily is proposed in a mixed-use district, the Senate bill allows us to require, so we have to allow at least 65% of those to be residential, and therefore, conversely, we would like for 35% of those to be non-residential. So if it's a multifamily proposal in a mixed-use district, the city is allowed to require to have non-residential uses. And then we also want in a mixed-use building for those ground floor units to be commercial ready. So we want those to be of a certain height. We want the interior to, usually they build those as a shell, and so have those be flexible and be prepared for restaurant hookups. Just have the windows, have everything be set up to be commercial and not easily converted into residential. We're also, so here on the bottom, we're looking at, we have been working on for a little while a low density or low intensity mixed use district, and so that is something we need to get done. But for now, we just have a few standards in this ordinance. So finally, to close up, we are looking at creating, so when people apply for their building permit, we want to make sure they've gone through all the processes they need to. So just kind of have a declaration of them saying they've completed all of their studies, they've done everything, they've provided everything they need to do. So that would be kind of a form they would submit with their building permit. Since we are not able to do the zoning process anymore, where we send out notifications to 200 feet, and we have the public hearings, so that is just not something that is an option. We still think it's important to let the people in the immediate area, maybe 200 feet, 300 feet, whatever, still send them notices and let them know that there's about to be something constructed near them. Because everybody knows, if you start to see something built, the city's going to be the one that gets that phone call that says what's going on, even though the city didn't authorize it and the city had no control over whether it could go in. So we wanted to make sure we were proactive in making sure that the neighbors knew what and why was being built. We also like the idea of posting signage, so we would send out notices to people, but then also have large signs that says this is what's being built. This is, and then they have to, as soon as they get their building permit, this would need to go up. It'd be, what we're thinking about now is maybe a 4x8 or something very large. And that it was built under Senate Bill 840, Chapter 218, and when it is intended to be complete, but just again, to let the public know what is being built and why it's being built. And then we're also looking at some adjustments in the fee schedule. So outside of the UDC, but just to update you, we're working on this adequate public facilities ordinance. All of the other departments, the water and water wastewater is the same, traffic, CIP, which does the stormwater. Everybody has their processes, so everybody already reviews if somebody comes in and does a development. This just kind of coordinates it and brings it all into one location. And excuse me. Just clarifies that new development must be adequately served by the public facilities. It says, what the developer needs to do in terms of doing their studies, any upgrades or improvements that they may need to do to get that minimum capacity would be the responsibility of the developer. Look at a reservation entitlement process. So it'd kind of be almost a first come, first serve. Look at the time periods. If somebody plats or gets a building permit, locking that capacity in, and then the next person, we just have to think through making sure we don't over obligate. Just because somebody's not in the system yet, we have to make sure that we're accounting for who's using what and how much, and when is too much, when can we not serve anymore. It will direct to the plans and code requirements of the different facilities. So everybody has their own plans and their own codes and their own design standards. And so making sure that this is kind of the central point. And then also formalizing the process to review and authorize the studies. And then finally, a few of these things, and this is what you're going to see on August 18th in our called meeting. The two things we talked about, the overlay districts and the TOD, removing those minimum density requirements. Just a minor, the heavy truck terminal is currently duplicated in the heavy and the light industrial section, so just taking out of light industrial. And then some amendments to the subdivision ordinance to basically refer to the adequate public facilities, that new chapter 53, because right now that the public facilities are more in the subdivision. We want to just take that out let that new chapter regulate. And then delete the section 5.6 stormwater management because we're moving it out of the subdivision ordinance and putting into the land development code. Subdivision ordinance, of course, is platting, and if somebody doesn't need to plat, we want to make sure that they still have to go through all of their stormwater and all their calculations and their requirements, even if they're outside of the platting process. So we are here today on August 4th. We will get together again in 2 weeks on August 18th, and then everything will come together to the City Council on August 28th. Building codes will be effective on the 30th, and then the effective date of the bill is September 1st. So that was a lot. Be happy to answer your questions.
All right, questions?
I have a concern. One of my concerns with this is the height, the minimum height of the building. Y'all guys are saying 6 stories. My recommendation to council would be 8 as the minimum height, because it would ensure the construction of the property, to protect the quality of life of the citizens, you know, the way it's designed, and plus the safety of the people living in there, because it would ensure a certain type structure to be built, and it would eliminate some of the heavy timber. It would either be concrete or steel. And I think that would be a lot more stable for these type developments. So I would recommend the council to go at least a minimum of 8 stories.
I'd just like to add to his comment, I totally concur with him. It's being more of a safety factor for the family and for the owners. And I'd have to support it going to 8 stories.
Oh, it's tall. 2 comments. One is, I heard some of the discussion was about there being certain additional protections or requirements whenever a proposal was near a residential area, but that may be just single family and 0 lot line, not necessarily duplex or townhomes. So I don't know if you can speak to if there is still that distinction, or if it, in all cases, includes all those residential type of use. Well, I would think single family, duplex, townhomes. I don't know if I'm missing any, because I would think folks who live in those types of districts would have a certain expectation to the integrity of their neighborhood, and it would make sense to not just limit it to single family housing. The second comment is I don't, in terms of making sure if we, as long as it's not prohibited by the statute or regulation, some of these additional burdens that are coming up, I think it's a great idea to provide notice, signage. I don't know if it's possible that the costs of those things can be passed to the applicant. I didn't see that specifically addressed, but I would expect things like that to be passed on to the applicant.
Yeah, we're proposing, like for the mailed notice, that in the zoning process, usually the fee is up front, but in the building permit process, the fee is on the back end. So what we will do is just pass on the actual cost of that postage. So if there's only 20 mail outs, then it'll be cheaper than if there's 50. So it'll be administrative fee, and then just the cost of the postage and printing.
Thanks.
Yeah, under the current ordinance, there's on commercial properties, there's various height limits, as I understand from our discussion last time.
So the different commercial districts and industrial districts all have their own maximum heights. But the proposal the direction that we got from the city council was to set the minimum of 6 stories. So, and then up to whatever those districts might allow, depending on their distance from residential.
So those height restrictions, those maximum height restrictions, are not being modified by these amendments?
Yes.
They,
Yeah,
they
we're-
may
we're-
be modified by the statute in some cases, but not by these amendments.
So we are pushing them up to the minimum of 6 stories. So the answer is yes, they are being modified. So we're not going through and amending each of the individual districts per se, but for these uses, we're setting the minimum of 6 stories.
So on a commercial district that currently you can't build anything over 50 feet, this is going to have the effect of making it where they can build something taller than 50 feet.
Yes. Philip, you didn't want to chime in, but feel free to chime in if you want to. We've spent a lot of time on height lately.
The answer is yes. That's the intent, is that new mixed use and multifamily that are entitled under Senate Bill 840, the minimum height that they would have to build to is 6 occupied stories. That's the baseline. Now, if they could go higher, if the district would otherwise allow for higher, but they could not go less than 6 occupied stories. The council changes that to 8, it would be 8.
So under the current ordinance, with the statute applying it, if the height limit was 50, 45 feet, or 50 feet, that would still be the limit, but this is making it where they're required to do even higher than that.
That's correct. If we do not change anything, Senate Bill 840, Chapter 218, would allow up to 45 feet, which is roughly 4 stories. We could not prohibit anything less than that. Our position is that the taller multifamily structures, because of the construction requirements, as was mentioned, make for a much sturdier, sustainable, long-lasting, quality building.
And so SBA, yeah, I have it on. So SBA 40 still allows us to put these requirements on the builder.
We believe it's not prohibited by SB 840.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons why we're doing this is if these things are going to be developed in certain areas, we just want to ensure that the quality, the safety of the citizens, safety of the neighbors, and everything else is taken into consideration. That's one of the reasons for the height requirement, is due to the type of materials that are used to build these facilities, instead of having wood structures that could possibly burn down completely in the middle of the night.
I think that's a correct assessment. Of course, we want to be in compliance with the law. That's our primary consideration. And equally important is the sustainability and the quality of construction that occurs in the city.
We don't currently require multifamily to be 6 stories or have these better construction methods currently.
No, we do not. No, we do not.
And this would only apply to, would this apply to all multifamily?
This would apply to all multifamily and mixed use that fit the definition of multifamily and mixed use that the state gave us. There's lots of things we don't currently do that the state is now saying we must do.
So maybe I wasn't clear. So the statute seems to be focused on multifamily that's being developed on commercial properties. And my question was really about multifamily that's being developed on what is already multifamily.
It would
zoned
seem it's
districts.
only, yeah, I understand the question and the point. The statute has 2 components to it, actually 3 components. One is a broad preemption that allows multifamily and mixed use to be built anywhere where retail, commercial, warehouse storage is allowed. The second component is it preempts many of the traditional development standards that you have for all multifamily, regardless of where they're built. So And then the third component is it has additional preemptions if you're converting a commercial building or an office building to a residential multifamily or mixed-use project. So,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that the vast majority of the multifamily that exists in Irving is not 6 stories or above.
correct. And the reality is there are not, and I don't believe there are many, if any, existing multifamily entitlements that haven't been built, which is why in most cases, when you see a new multifamily development proposed, it goes through a zoning process because we have 55% of our housing units are already some form of multifamily. We have built a lot of multifamily in Irving and consumed most of the places, if not all, that where multifamily is allowed. And so zoning cases are typically the way that the council would review for development quality to determine whether or not what is being proposed is contributory to the city overall.
So hypothetically, if somebody was, say, tearing down an old multifamily that was in disrepair and wanted to build new multifamily, even if it had only been 2 stories or 3 stories, it would now be required to be 6 stories in order to do that.
It's conceivable. I think that's a fact question that we would certainly consult with the city attorney's office on, but that's conceivable.
Will this apply to hotels?
No, this is multifamily and mixed use residential, which is not a hotel.
Mr. Sanders, if you take the building that's U.S. Bank building that's in, over on Greenway, near this empty lot that we're talking about, that's an empty building. We've had a case in front of us before where they wanted to renovate that into a hotel. Is that the kind of property that SB 840, they could end up building multifamily in that location, even though it's commercial all around it?
It's probable, yes.
Yeah.
Now, depending on how far it is from the airport, how far it is from, if there's any heavy industrial uses that are in proximity, there's tests that we would have to run to see if they're qualified, but barring any disqualifying feature, the office building could be either converted or you could scrape it and build new. Now, we have new development standards. Depending on the nature of the project, they would be applicable provided we're not otherwise preempted by state law.
And they would still have to comply with the new building code requirements. So, I mean,
Yes.
it wouldn't be they could just have people move into offices. They would have to bring it into compliance
That's
for
correct.
people to live in.
That's correct, yes, sir.
So by us moving this on the council with all the recommendations of all the new building codes, the energy efficiency and everything else, as far as people's quality of life, ensuring it's not a big drain on our infrastructure, et cetera, would they be able to have, if we settle on 6 or 8, I'm recommending 8, but if we settle on either which one, will they be able to come back before us for a variance by a case-by-case basis? Or would that be something that's just locked in for them?
We have the SP process in Irving that we use, and if there were an occasion where they wanted to propose some variance to our development standards, they could avail themselves of the SP process, just as they do today.
So theoretically, if somebody wanted to come in and say, hey, you know, I've got this old apartment complex, I want to replace it with something that's essentially the same but just newer, they could, without having to do the 6 stories, if they wanted to come before us and then council, they could seek approval for that.
Yeah, something just like that was approved last week by council. Yeah.
Can we decide on the 6 or 8 now? I mean, I got the sense from the work session at City Council that 6 stories moved you into that higher quality.
One of the council members here, Mark, what's your sense on it?
So I would say that, first of all, thank you so much, Philip and Jocelyn, for all your work. I mean, you've heard all the detail that's gone into this. It's really very fast and amazing. But, so yeah, we had a very long council day on Thursday. We talked about a lot of things, and leading up to that, there was been some discussion about 10-story minimum. Certainly 6-story was discussed. Walt talked about how that would assure the steel construction, as Ricky was talking about, the quality construction that we want going forward. But we didn't really get into a discussion about 6 or 8, and we've talked about it a little bit, and I think 8 would be a better fit, because there's still the danger of having a lot of the smaller construction going around, and the impact that would have on the community. And I think we look at what's going on. O'Connor Ridge passed at the last council meeting. That's 12 above ground, 2 beneath. The Ritz is 19 stories. So I think that council is trying to move towards greater density that way with the higher quality construction. So I think a minimum of 8 would be in line with what we've been doing that way.
But those
Chairman
were-
Skinner, just a procedural point of order. If the commission wishes to recommend that it be 8 rather than 6, I would just suggest you make that part of your motion, as you do with a variety of other changes where you recommend that sort of thing to council, because you are a recommending body.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're recommending on these issues. Yeah.
But this is multifamily. This is not condominium like the place next to Ritz-Carlton.
Condominiums are
and the one on O'Connor
multifamily.
Ridge.
Those are multifamily.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we don't distinguish between condos and
We,
multifamily.
we can't, and as a matter of zoning, distinguish between the financial structure of the units.
Yeah. And the statute defines multifamily pretty broadly
Yeah,
too,
it-
right?
It says including condominiums.
Yeah.
In the state definition.
Councilman? please. Oh, I think it's been turned off again. On, please.
Bottom line is, this is really a great exercise for you all. You're going to earn your money. We all make a lot of money at this, you know that. No, I'm very serious about that, because it's one thing when you see the things that you see, like tonight, and some of the things you've had in the past, but this is going to be very important for you all to get and roll your sleeves up, because you got to help us too, because we're going to deal with it. And if we do some things that are changing, it may be coming back to you. That's one of the things I think Philip is, and Jocelyn will say to you. At the end of the day, I just want to give you a real opportunity to really get into this. Because if you don't, then, at the end of the day, don't be surprised. You want to be part of helping us get to where we got to get. And I will tell you, what we went through with our last meeting and the briefing that Philip and the rest of the team brought to us, they're struggling like we are, because the state legislature, and I'm very hard on this one, are really changing laws, or having laws that are changing the makeup and the character of our cities. And that's what you got to put in your head, because you're a critical piece to all of this. And so I'm just trying to tell you that this is serious now, probably more serious than you've ever got into. So with that.
Mr. Chairman, I will tell what I told the council is that this is not a perfect ordinance. We had a very limited amount of time to think through a lot of different things, and what we found was when you pull on one thread, a lot of things begin to unravel. The state gave us a very blunt instrument. They didn't allow us a lot of ability to be flexible and think through the nuances. So our response in some cases is fairly blunt, because that's all the state will allow us to do. And we didn't have a lot of time to think through every possible scenario. We do have the SP process, which may afford some flexibility in an appropriate way, depending on what's proposed. But this is not our fault. It's not your fault. It's not the council's fault. This is laid directly at the feet of the state legislature, who passed a bill without consulting, without thinking through the effect it would have on cities. And we're trying to respond to that. I fully anticipate that there will be a future day when we'll come and say, hey, we need to change something because we missed something in review, or maybe it didn't work out the way we anticipated, and that's okay. But I think we've done a fairly reasonable job of trying to comply with the bill, comply with the law, and yet provide some level of protection and assurance of quality and sustainability for new development that we did not plan for.
I think moving to 8 is the more viable option because they have the option of coming back before us. And then we can look at and make sure the quality, the safety, et cetera, its sustainable building is going to be built properly. So I think pushing to a minimum of 8 stories would give us a little bit more regulatory as far as anything that's under that. And going above 8 sort of regulates the materials and the stuff that's used to build these top buildings. So it's going to ensure that the quality is there and the safety's there in case of a problem or an issue. We don't have to worry about it for years to come.
Now, I was under the impression that the 6 levels, the 6 floors, already shifted the construction over into the higher quality construction.
It shifts it to steel, it shifts it to concrete, but it also allows for heavy timber, which is wood construction. If you go above 6 stories, it will eliminate the wood construction, which could potentially be on that many stories. If you catch fire on the 6th floor, you could potentially burn all the way down. If you got a concrete structure or a metal structure, it's going to sustain that floor until they can get it put out or whatever. So it would eliminate one of the heavy timber type construction by moving up to 8.
So what was the thought in terms of the 6? Because it was higher in the first round of our looking at this.
I think Ricky's description is the thoughts that we went through in looking at the 6 stories where fundamentally the type of construction changes to either concrete or steel. There is an allowance for heavy timber. I am not intimate with the building codes to understand exactly how that works, and Wayne unfortunately is out of town, but certainly something we can look at and advise the council when that topic comes up.
Does that take it from mid-rise to high-rise, 6 to 8? I thought they're both mid-rise, 6 to 8, or does that?
Take it from a 6-story to an 8-story.
Yeah. Does that change the classification of whether it's a mid-rise or high-rise?
No.
What triggers it? Is it the 8 stories?
What triggers high-rise?
Mid-rise and high-rise are terms in the fire code that deal with things unrelated to this issue. We don't use those terms as a matter of zoning. They're
So is the 8th floor is what triggers the material that's used?
Again, I would have to defer to our building official to look at that issue specifically.
I think by his comments on Thursday, 6 floors starts triggering the type of materials that's used. And if you go up a couple more stories, it eliminates one and requires the last 2.
I think what Wayne had indicated when he talked to the council Thursday was just the longevity of the structure itself. By going to these different construction methods, they just last a lot longer. It is a better quality, more sustainable construction over time.
What kind of transition, because that was a lot of discussion last Thursday as well, is the transition from a residential area to this, now what we're considering minimum height of 8 stories. How much of an interface is that all through the city? Where will the rub be if somebody wants to put an 8-story structure next to a residential area?
They would have to be set back 25 feet. We had, I think, initially proposed a buffer of, I think, about 120 feet, where the multifamily and mixed-use residential would be limited to the max allowed by the state, which is the 45 feet. After discussing these types of issues, the council felt like that buffer was not something that they wanted to have in the final version of the ordinance. So this would be in every case where 25.
But we put a significant buffer on the data centers that were over by Neiman Marcus. Didn't we increase the buffer between the neighborhood and the data centers?
To mitigate the potential noise impact.
Noise
yes.
impact only,
Yeah.
not height.
Right, correct.
Let me reiterate one more time. The main thing with going higher is ensuring the safety the safety of the residents, not necessarily, I mean, you can make a wood structure look just like a steel structure. The outside can be done any way you want to do it. It's just the safety and the building materials that's used to create sustainability for the building for years to come.
Yeah, I think as a side benefit, though, that also triggers a lot of other things, like using premium material inside the apartment, ensuring that we're not going to have a bunch of small buildings and better, lesser buildings, more dense. So I agree with that.
I think my hesitation is kind of the point that Debbie was, the example she was giving, the prospect of a 6 or 8-story residential building right next door to, R6, R75, that seems, we don't have to do that. I get the point about the quality of the construction, and that makes a lot of sense. And if there was a way to get that quality without having to go up that high, that would have been my preference. But I trust the staff that that's
These are
not
certainly
really an
issues
option.
we wrestled with these issues,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Council. I think wrestled with them last Thursday, and there's no perfect solution here.
No, I mean, the 45-foot isn't perfect, but 45-foot sounds a lot better to me than 8 stories.
Yeah, well, 6 stories right now is going to be 120 feet in the air, so there's really not that
Yeah,
much
that's
of a
that.
difference in.
No,
what
yeah,
we're doing
no,
is
the 6
improve
versus
quality.
8, yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you. It seems to me that moving past the 45 feet, it's already losing a lot. And I think that's really unfortunate.
Well, we'll probably also say the economics of it for any developer to build a 6-story building, that's actually the main impact, I believe, on this. Actually, it's just really the economic level of somebody building it and be able to afford the rent if they're gonna be leasing it at how much, whatever square foot is going at that neighborhood itself. So I think that's the real point here. That's what I will take from this. Like, I mean, they're not gonna build a 6-story building in an area where the rent won't support occupying it.
So one question, I'm just thinking of the existing businesses, office buildings that we have. And so, back off of Greenway, there's, I don't know, it may be 6, 7 stories. Is there a certain type of materials that those buildings had to be built with versus what we're talking about here today?
Yeah, when it comes to a building conversion, they're going to have to meet the building codes. So whatever applicable building codes, there's a difference between what might be required for an office or commercial building versus now I'm making it residential. So there are some things they would have to pay attention to, and whether that's cost effective to convert without starting over, that's just an analysis whoever the developer is would have to look at. We had a building conversion that was approved last Thursday. Was it approved last Thursday? Yeah. Where it was a 3-story structure that was proposed to be converted, and they had a large 14-story structure that was going to be built new next to it. So this would just have to be an analysis they would have to look at. But building codes would be applicable. Many of our other codes would be applicable. Some would not, because of the way that 840 was written. There are certain additional preemptions that apply to a conversion that don't apply to a new build. And we would just have to look at that case by case and say, okay, make sure we're complying with the law.
Any other questions?
This is more of a suggestion. I don't know if this is possible. And I mean, something I would like to see at some point. It's if it can be added about 10%, at least 10% green space for any of these developments or in the future as well. Because I feel a lot of the developments we see, they don't really have any green areas, and it's something I think that will help the city as well as to make it
Well, I have good news. The minimum is actually 20%.
Oh, well, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we've got you covered.
Question. So I saw there was, I guess in a couple weeks, there's another agenda item related to this, but is this the only opportunity we have to make recommendations on this set of proposals?
Yes.
Okay. Can I make one technical point? Because I'm reading through the draft. I saw in the amenities, it says required amenities, optional amenities. The optional amenities are actually required, they just get to choose two. So I would change that to something like required elective amenities or something like that. So it's, because that just confuses me. It's not optional.
Understood. Carolyn is our chief drafter, and we'll certainly have that conversation. I don't speak legalese, so.
Any other questions? All right. In that case, that was our last item of the work session. And the work session is adjourned at 7:41 PM. We will start up in the other room in about 10 minutes.